everyone is ready.
Yeah, well, we're nearly there now, Lou, and you can see there the recap of the accomplishments of these players. We did touch on a few before there. You've got Eduardo with that 2020 Oceania International finalist. Then you've got the 2019 top 16 at Worlds, and then you've got that top 4 at Worlds as well. So Eduardo's run up to this point, he is undefeated in this tournament so far.
It's incredible to be undefeated at this level of competition and to potentially go undefeated in the whole thing and win the title. That is an incredible feat for Eduardo to complete.
Do it, Lou. I'm so excited for this, and everyone, let the players know that you're cheering them on. Here we go, Lou.
Out of the blocks for Guillermo, it is Lunala paired up with that Regieleki. And on the opposing side, you love to see it. Gastrodon and Rillaboom, 3 of the Pokemon we talked about, Lee, are on the field. Yeah,
well, it makes a lot of sense for Eduardo to have that Rillaboom out and the Gastrodon. Potential Yawns that come out from this side of the field.
Well, Regieleki's just going to get in on out of here and retreat in favor of the Incineroar. That's going to be able to throw a cheeky Intimidate down against that opposing Rillaboom and negate some of the offensive pressure it will be emitting, as well as allowing Guillermo the opportunity to use Fake Out in the following turn. Lunala's also going to play a little bit defensively, going for a Protect, doesn't want to get its Shadow Shield ability broken so early on. As Rillaboom goes for the knockoff, that would have dealt super effective damage and been so destructive to Lunala. Gastrodon following up the Icy Wind, revealing its disruptive speed control option. It's only going to catch the Incineroar, however, lower its speed by 1 stage. But already Eduardo is applying that lovely mix of offensive pressure with the knockoff and setting up a little bit of speed control with Gastrodon.
You need to be able to get that boost, but if you can knock it off, then it takes it out of the equation.
And really wise to Fake Out into the Rillaboom as Lunala gets the blind hypnosis straight into Rillaboom, identifying such a key threat of a Pokemon and shutting it down so expertly. Rillaboom, as you can see, is fast asleep. It's not going to be doing anything this turn, leaving the pressure up to Gastrodon to be able to capitalize on this situation and going for the Icy Wind. So it is going to break the Shadow Shield on Lunala and lower the speed. But I think that was a fantastic turn for Guillermo going forward in the match.
Yeah, going for that Hypnosis and actually hitting it is huge. The payoff here takes away the threat of that Rillaboom, where we know it's got that knockoff. It is going to threaten it really hard.
Only is it great to deal super effective damage, but you can remove a pesky item here or there. Lunala going for the Protect again. It does not want to have to take any unnecessary damage as Rillaboom takes a second turn of sleep here. Gastrodon is going to go for the Yawn. So you can see Eduardo really targeting down into Lunala, but Incineroar's going to give a little bit of respite by going for this parting shot. So again, Guillermo really targeting down Rillaboom. It's weakening its attack stack once again and allowing him the opportunity to pivot out to reset the Intimidate drops.
Yeah, you make a really good point, but he is using his time wisely. He's getting the Intimidate onto the Rillaboom already, and now utilizing that parting shot to further reduce the attack power of the Rillaboom, taking away its capabilities into that slot and try and remove it before there is any further threat from it.
I completely agree. I also worry about that Gastrodon, however, though, because it could be in a position to go for a Yawn into that Groudon. Incineroar's going to switch in for the Lunala. I think it's wise to get it out of there. It certainly was very threatened. And to throw another Intimidate down against this Rillaboom. Groudon this time is going to go defensively. So Guillermo really trying to switch up ball positions to gain momentum as Rillaboom takes another turn of sleep. Once again, it's just going to be up to Gastrodon to give us action this turn. And it was going for the Yawn into that Groudon.
Still asleep, and the Incineroar coming in now has the opportunity to go for a parting shot here, and all the time this grassy terrain is running out of turns.
Well, it's going to be a double switch for Eduardo, realizing the situation just wasn't in his favor. And I think resetting those attacks drops are really good for that Rillaboom. But it is always risky going for a double switch when you've got such an offensive powerhouse like Groudon on the field, because you could be taking some unnecessary damage. Incineroar's going to go for Fake Out into the Ghost type, so it's not going to be doing any damage, and clicks that Swords Dance button. Guillermo once again showing that he's not afraid to get the boost up on that Groudon. And now if you're Eduardo, you are forced to have to deal with this Groudon, otherwise it is going to get KO after KO. So you'd also then set up the weather and start getting that residual chip damage with the Sandstorm. But we're going to see Gastrodon rejoin the field.
Gastrodon coming back in here, and you know, the one thing that I did like there from Eduardo was that he was putting that Thunderous on the field to kind of mitigate almost the Incineroar being freely able to come in with the Intimidate or parting shot, because you get punished for it with that Defiant ability. But we do see the Gastrodon come in, and we see a Dynamax Groudon here from Guillermo's side of the field, taking full advantage of these Swords Dances.
Yeah, first Dynamax of the Masters final here, and it is going to be that Groudon's Calyrex goes for the Will-O-Wisp though, and it connects. That is one way to deal and counteract with the boost that the Swords Dance gave that Groudon. It is going to go for the Max Rockfall though. I'm sure this is now going to catch the Gastrodon that has switched in, and a really nice adjustment by Eduardo, because Gastrodon's going to take that much better than the Thunderous would have.
Yeah, great play here from Eduardo to really nullify the threat from that Groudon, getting that Will-O-Wisp, taking away those boosts that you've already got from the Sword Stance, and then the Gastrodon. Oh!
Fantastic follow-up by that Incineroar, taking down the Calyrex to its Focus Sash, and thanks to the Max Rockfall setting up that sand, Calyrex is out of here.
That's one of Eduardo's restricteds down here, and a great play from Guillermo. The adjustment from Eduardo was great there to bring in the Gastrodon to take that big Max Rockfall, obviously resisting that smartly because he used the Rockfall there. It doesn't matter if it's not effective into the Gastrodon, it's doing its job, it's taking down that Calyrex.
Yawn, and it kind of shows a little bit more of Eduardo's targeting, and you're going to be forced to go for the partner Pokemon if you want to go for those Yawns. Regieleki's going to join the field, though, very happy to be here in the Grand Finals as Thundurus goes for the Protect.
Yeah, just want to kind of try and waste these Dynamax turns. There's two more, obviously this one, and one more after this for Guillermo. So Eduardo wants to try and stall these out, get through these turns without taking anything else as a loss here. So you're going to see the Gastrodon, like you say, though, the burn on that. Oh, it's an Earth Power into the Regieleki.
Oh, it gets the
down.
one-hit KO on Regieleki before it's able to do anything, Lee.
This is one turn after another here. You know, you're splitting the turn, and then pow, these slower Pokemon are picking up the knockouts and showing why they've been chosen to be here, because they are the impactful ones on what is a massive threat to Eduardo's side of the field.
Hey, we have not hyped up Gastrodon for 4 days for nothing. Pokemon like Regieleki on the field. Lunala's going to come in and have to take a taunt. I love seeing this choice on a Defiant Thundurus. You know, you still are able to shut down those status moves, but Lunala's not going to fall for it, not going to go for any Hypnosis here. Instead, the Moongeist Beam. Going to jump up into the sky and fire down a beam of light into that Gastrodon, but you can see it's barely doing anything here. Gastrodon able to survive as Groudon's going to follow up with the Max Quake. I like this being able to get good damage onto the Gastrodon and the KO to boot
knockout
and get the special defense boost. Poor Gastrodon's gone.
Not able to take that double up there from the Lunala and the Groudon. A huge knockout, huge advantage that Guillermo's just giving himself there and not going for that Hypnosis, kind of suspecting maybe the Thundurus is going to have something like the Taunt to shut down that option. And also it is kind of risky in that situation because of the low accuracy that something like Hypnosis has, going for the more consistent option and really capitalizing in this position.
Now Eduardo forced down to the last two remaining Pokemon. So Rillaboom is going to rejoin the battle, set that grassy terrain up, but it is still taking a little bit of a nap here. I have to really credit Eduardo's Thundurus in this situation. You know, we often see a Thundurus and go, is it Defiant or is it Prankster?
Electric and
yeah, you could do some big damage with the Max move, for sure. But I think the Rillaboom might be high risk, high reward, Lee. As you mentioned earlier, with the move pool that it's got, it could go for something like a Max Darkness from that knockoff into the opposing Lunala, but instead it is going to be that Thundurus. I think Eduardo wanting to make sure that if you're going for the Dynamax, you want to be able to go for your moves, don't want to have to risk taking a turn off sleep.
And the nice thing about the Thundurus on the field is, like we mentioned earlier, because of that Defiant ability that it's got access to, it's going to punish any time the Incineroar wants to come in onto the field and even further boost that Thundurus' attack.
Well, that time will be now because Lunala has been KO'd. Guillermo's going to be forced to bring that Incineroar onto the field and will be able to get the Defiant boost on that Thundurus. So Eduardo picking the perfect Pokemon to Dynamax, and this Max Airstream is going to be so critical towards the end game. Groudon is going to go for the Rock Tomb, not get the KO though, and I really like this play by Guillermo because, as I was about to say, the Airstream gives you the boost, but the Rock Tomb takes it away. But again, the Defiant is really paying off here. I think the speeds are going to be interesting going into this next turn because if that Thundurus can stick around, it's going to be able to get a KO thanks to all of the attack boosts it's getting.
And it's going to get another one as we speak with this Incineroar, inevitably going to hit the field if it is able to do something. So kind of mitigating any of the Defiant boost. Doesn't really matter if you're going to give it the boost, if you can knock it out before it can attack. But on the other side of the coin, if that Thundurus is still faster than that Groudon in particular, then it is going to be able to do some big impactful damage this next turn.
Airstream try and pick up a KO on that opposing Incineroar and leaving the Rillaboom to deal with the Groudon. It's going to go for the Grassy Glide, takes it just below 50% HP remaining as Thundurus can follow up with that Max Airstream into the opposing Incineroar. It's going to be able to get the KO!
It's a huge KO into the Incineroar here, and that puts Eduardo right back into this game. Outspeeding the Groudon, like we said, is the biggest thing here. The Grassy Glide as well, doing some really good damage into that Groudon now. And for this next turn, we're going to have another Grassy Glide that's going to be able to potentially pick up the knockout there after that residual burn damage.
And I mean, Sigh of Relief, that Thundurus as well. The Sandstorm is gone because you can see it's taking that little bit of Life Orb recoil. If it was also taking that little bit of Sand Chip, then it could possibly end up KOing itself. It's not going to benefit from the grassy terrain as it's up in the sky. But I mean, what a fantastic way for Eduardo to put himself right back in the driving seat for these last couple of turns of game 1. Rillaboom just needs to go for another grassy glide, deal a huge chunk to that Groudon, and at the end of the day, the burn's going to be the last bit of chip to deal with Groudon if it's even needed.
Yeah, and you've also got the Thunderous to contend with as well, with all of this Divine Boost, and Guillermo realizing that, conceding the first game, and Eduardo Cunha going 1-0 up in this first set. Pluses in this match because it can't be then put to sleep, but maybe there's another route for both of these players to look at going into game 2.
Well, they're shaking things up a little bit. It's Zacian with the Thunderous for Eduardo. And on the opposing side for Guillermo, it is the Grimmsnarl paired up with the fan favorite Charizard.
This is of that Charizard, although it will be slower than both things on Eduardo's side of the field, so you've got to be aware of that.
Well, straight out of the blocks here, Eduardo is going to go for that Dynamax. Judging by the item and, of course, the Pokemon on the field, it's going to be that Thunderous. So immediately applying great pressure with something like a Max Airstream in order to try and keep the speed advantage on Eduardo's side, particularly when you're facing down against something like a Charizard that can also go for those amazing Max Airstreams. It does look like it's going to be a Dynamax apiece, though, Lee. Do you think it's that Charizard?
It's got to be the Charizard. I'd be surprised if it was Grimmsnarl, but I think it will be. Yeah, both players going for their Dynamax here, or Gigantamax here with the Charizard. It is hitting the field. There's no Sun Up, so it's not going to have that solar power boost, but it'll be interesting to see what item is played on that Charizard. Yeah, and I love the adjustment. Bringing Charizard into this game, too. You can get that G-Max Wildfire set up and start going for the residual damage. Grimmsnarl's going to help out as well with a scary face, reducing the speed of the opposing Zacian by 2 stages here. Thunderous is then going to be the first to move outside of that Prankster ability and going for the Max Airstream, and you can see that it is not enough to get the 2 hit on the opposing Charizard. It is, of course, going to give the speed boost to Eduardo, but this does still leave the Charizard in the position where it can go for some big damage with that G-Max Wildfire. It's going to fall down onto the opposing Zacian. It is not enough to get the KO, but the residual damage will lead. That's a huge survival here. The Zacian getting that speed drop, so you think, oh no, it's in the worst possible position. It's not going to get any attacks off here, but it is, and it is able to go into that Grimmsnarl and pick up a big knockout, Lou. It may be slow at the moment, but Zacian is still powerful. Gets the 1-hit KO on that Grimmsnarl. That now means Guillermo doesn't have the utility set up things like a Reflect or a Light Screen. Zacian will go down to that G-Max Wildfire, so a big KO apiece very early on in this game too. Field, you know, the big thing for Guillermo is he's got no speed control now other than Max Airstream, but if you're going down the Max Airstream route, the Thunderous is already ahead of you and it's already got a Max Airstream onto the field. Yeah, we're now in a dangerous position for that Groudon, you know. It's great that it's coming in and throwing the Sun on the field to help Charizard out, using its solar power ability to boost up its moves. For the Calyrex, you'd be a bit concerned about the Focus Sash there because, you know, you need to break that, but with the residual damage that you're seeing, not going to get that, as we see that Charizard just go for the Max Guard this turn. Yeah, so Charizard not taking any damage from the Max Lightning or the Astral Barrage, but Groudon is going to have to take a little bit of damage, does about a third there, and is able to fire off a Precipice Blade. Now, I love this play. You're not going to hit the Thunderous, but you're going to do a significant chunk to the Calyrex, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough when paired up with the Wildfire to actually get the KO. So Calyrex is going to hang around a little bit. Defensive presence that the Groudon has. Thunderous is going to go for a Max Lightning, this time find its mark on that Charizard and get the knockout against it. Big KO there for Eduardo, leaving Guillermo with just 2 Pokemon remaining. Groudon still out on the field, and the electric terrain is going to be set as well. Yeah, and now the Calyrex is going to be able to get a single target Astral Barrage. It's going to be more powerful than that spread attack into this single target Groudon, and will it be enough to pick up the knockout? This could be huge and swing the momentum into Eduardo's favor. The single target Astral Barrage will not get the KO! It survives! It goes for the Rock Tomb, able to just hang on and deal with that Calyrex. Calyrex is out of there, but I mean, what a precarious situation for Groudon. Thunderous still being so formidable as well. And here we go, the Groudon survival there, able to get the knockout onto the Calyrex. It's huge. Just out of, obviously with the residual damage there helping out a bit, but both players now down to that last 2 Pokemon. I mean, Incineroar is not the Pokemon you want to bring in while facing down against that Thunderous. It's going to be able to get a Defiant boost thanks to Intimidate being thrown down against it, and with the speed that Thunderous is applying at the moment, it's going to be in a great position to deal some good damage to something like this opposing Incineroar that we saw kind of play out towards the end of Game 1. The one issue we've got, though, is the Dynamax turns are over. You can now go for a fake out into Thunderous. Groudon, you remove that, you only need to concentrate onto that Incineroar. Well, Rillaboom going to go for the fake out into the opposing Incineroar. As Thunderous files out with a Wild Charge. Not going to be able to get the KO, but of course Incineroar's not going to be able to move in this turn as Groudon goes for the Rock Tomb. Really targeting down the Thunderous and will be able to get the KO. It's just Rillaboom against Groudon and the Incineroar. Do you think Rillaboom's got enough, or
are we going to see a game 3?
This is going to go right down to the wire here. The Groudon on minimal health, but able to get the knockout onto that Thunderous here. And the Incineroar not in a great position, but is it in range from something that the Rillaboom's on how it's trained?
Yeah, Groudon just going for the Rock Tomb. Doesn't seem to be carrying that Fire-type move into the Rillaboom. Does a little bit of damage, of course, reducing the speed of that Rillaboom, allowing the Incineroar to go first in the sun with a Flare Blitz into Rillaboom. Gets the KO. We are in a game 3, Lee.
Here we go. There we go. Have access to that Meteor Beam. It is an option there. But on Guillermo's side, the big threat is obviously that Charizard.
And speaking of Charizard, it's back. Paired up with the Grimmsnarl once again, and Eduardo has gone for the Thunderous and Zacian combination for this game 3.
Wildfire, you know, at least get an attack off before it goes down. So that's something to consider, maybe adapt, change a little bit going into this turn.
I was going to say, I'd probably love to see just the Rogue Groudon switch in, but not happening here. It's going to be a Dynamax on that Thunderous. Going to be playing out very similarly to the way Game 2 is here. Both of these trainers decided to Dynamax very, very early in Game 2 and apply that offensive pressure straight away. We see the Dynamax for Eduardo, but not for Guillermo in this turn, instead opting to go for a Protect and play a little bit defensively. Coming back onto the battlefield, Grimmsnarl's going to set up the Reflect, and I really like this adjustment. The Scary Face wasn't too beneficial in the end. Being able to get the defensive measures up are going to protect you from both of these physical attackers on Eduardo's side. Behemoth Blade comes out from the opposing Zacian, however, it will connect onto that Grimmsnarl, but with Reflect in play, it's still not going to be able to survive.
No, it goes down, and that I think that the decision here, you know, Guillermo's that if the Zacian stays on the field, which it will this turn, I'm protecting with my Charizard, I have to get some more out of it. I didn't get any value out of it that last game because the Scary Face, it was gone after the Zacian kind of was knocked out. Now you've got the Reflect in play against these big physical attackers. It's way more impactful, especially protecting your Charizard that you saw obviously taking the Max Airstream there that turn, but not taking as much damage as Guillermo would have been taking that previous game without the Reflect.
I mean, this is where things could change slightly. You've got the Sun on the field. Charizard could be in a position to go for that Gigantamax and put down big pressure with a G-Max Wildfire, try and deal with the Zacian.
Attack. And be interested to see if Guillermo is indeed going for that this turn.
I mean, you're right, picking the time to click that Dynamax button can be so critical, and even though Eduardo's already gone for it, Guillermo held back a turn, and Gigantamax Charizard is now going to be on the battlefield applying pressure, doubling up its HP stat to give it the extra bulk it may need in order to survive a double up. If you're Guillermo, you want to get the G-Max Wildfire out on the field. Zacian is going to move first, going for that Behemoth Blade. Now, even though it's not necessarily super effective against the Charizard, it's still in its Dynamax form. It's going to do a good chunk of damage and possibly put it in a vulnerable position to take a super effective attack like the Max Lightning. Thunderous goes for it. Charizard takes it, but is not able to survive.
It's down. That is a huge turn. I think you were banking on that Charizard surviving here. It was slower than both the Pokemon on Eduardo's side of the field. If the Charizard was able to survive through that Reflect, then it would have been able to get an attack off and really swing that momentum back into Guillermo's favor. But unfortunately, that was not the case. Now that huge Behemoth Blade able to get enough damage where the Thunderous able to capitalize and pick up the knockout and not have any impact from that Charizard at all.
I mean, the crowd is going wild here with 2 turns in, 2 KOs down for Guillermo, and Eduardo in such a strong, commanding position to try and take the title.
Yeah, and now it gets a little bit worse as well with that Thunderous's Defiant ability activating, getting an attack boost from the Intimidate on that Incineroar. Boosted attack, it's going to be doing a lot of damage into that Incineroar.
Well, Zacian, I think, wisely going for the Protect here. You've got Fake Out on the opposing side. You don't want to be accidentally finished, but there's no Fake Out, actually. It's just going to be a Max Airstream into the Incineroar. Not enough to get the KO, but again, Eduardo just dealing so much damage against Guillermo that there isn't really the respite to have any option for recovery. Speed is obviously going to boost up on Eduardo's side as Groudon goes for the Rock Tomb, trying to counter that speed boost, but just dealing such insignificant damage. Thunderous is just in such a healthy position with another Defiant boost that it is so strongly positioned to get a KO on this next turn. That said, Incineroar has something to say about it. It's like, I'm sorry, Lou, no, I've had enough of Thunderous, let's get it out of here. I want a KO too.
Yeah, and you see that the double up really nice as well. Obviously taking advantage of the turn where there is fake out pressure. That's why we saw the Zacian protect there, not do any damage this turn, and really Guillermo capitalizing on it. And he has to capitalize like that every turn going forward now. Unfortunately, the Calyrex Shadow Rider now hitting the field, which is going to be faster than both that Groudon and the Incineroar.
Across the previous matches in this set, we know the focus sash is on that Calyrex, but there's no Wildfire and no stand to chip away at it. So if you're Guillermo, you have to double into it to remove it from the field. Zacian's going to go for the Behemoth Blade into Groudon, not dealing too much damage, but just chipping away at it to allow the Calyrex to return with an Astral Barrage. And on the Grimmsnarl earlier did not set up a light screen, so this is going to deal big damage, get the KO on Incineroar, and put Groudon in range of a KO in the next turn.
This is getting right down to the wire here. We are seeing that Grimnir ability activate and getting a boost in its special attack for the Calyrex here, so it's going to hit even harder that next turn. Precipice Blade does connect, but not enough to take down the Calyrex here for Eduardo.
I mean, you get rid of the Zacian and you bring Eduardo down to the last two remaining Pokemon, but we've already seen the way the speeds are playing out. Rillaboom's going to join the field, however, set that grassy terrain, and I think Rillaboom's one of the key Pokemon in games 1 and 2. But in this game 3, it's really been coming down to the way that Thundurus was able to pivot around and have this Calyrex in a position where it's going to be able to get a KO.
Yeah, and I think the key factor there was how long that Zacian was allowed to stick around on the field. And as we see,
and Eduardo Cunha is your 2022 Pokemon World Champion!
Incredible games, incredible set. Massive congratulations to Eduardo, our 2022 Pokemon World Champion.